Welcome to Filled with His Love, Strengthening Attachment Relationships. Today's episode, Charity Believeth All Things. And I've subtitled it Sibling Relationships because sometimes we might have a relationship with a sibling that is not as wonderful as we would hope. So we have all these sayings in our culture. Some of these sayings have been around for centuries. A leopard can't change its spots. Old dogs can't learn new tricks. As the twig is bent, so grows the tree. This one may be not quite as well known as the other two, but still the same message. People cannot change. Whatever their characteristics are right now, that's the way they're going to be because people just can't change. It's interesting that we have so many sayings that are so negative in many ways, but we do. I want to refute those sayings in some ways today, particularly because of my brother's story. I have two older sisters and a younger brother. He's 3.5 years younger. So growing up, we didn't have a ton in common because our age spread was a little much. But I remember so much going on vacations down to Oak City to visit our aunt and uncle and riding on an old black horse called Toby. We were up there together on that horse and had a great time. And we had lots of great times together as young brothers. Catherine Conger, a psychologist, once said, siblings are the last explored territory of family relationships. So what she means is we do a lot with parent-child relationships, and we don't do too much with siblings and how siblings relate to each other, even though siblings are going to be relating to each other in mortality much longer than parent-child relationships endure during mortality. Daniel Shaw, another researcher, said parents serve the same big picture role as doctors on grand rounds. Siblings are like the nurses on the ward. They're there every day. Think of that for a moment. Siblings are like these constant, caring people that are with us all the time as we grow up. And then when we part our ways, in a sense, when we move away, for example, sometimes those sibling relationships are not as tight as we might hope. So, yeah, we had so much fun as kids. And then I went on a mission to Tahiti when I was 19, and my brother, at about that same time, a little bit later actually, he went on drugs. He became addicted to drugs. Again, I've mentioned this episode to him and asked his permission. He gladly gave his permission. I told him I think this episode can help people because he had a very difficult time with drugs. He was on drugs for 2.5 years into some very heavy drugs and difficult times for him. He stopped taking drugs cold turkey, and then he filled a mission a little bit later in New Zealand, and so had a wonderful time there. After his mission, he was married in the temple. But then, for a variety of reasons, who knows all of these reasons, he became less active. He and his wife both became less active in the church. And so then I wasn't becoming less active. I was called to serve as the Sunday school general president for the church. So our paths were quite divergent. He was not coming to church, and of course I was spending a great deal of time in church service. So I remember one time when I was sustained as Sunday school general president, I invited my brother to general conference. And he said, yeah, I could come to the evening meeting. I could come to priesthood. Well, that was actually the first meeting that I was supposed to sit in the red chairs as the new Sunday school general president. I didn't want him to sit alone in the audience, and so I called the office of the First Presidency and I asked them if it would be all right if I did not sit in my appointed chair on the stand, but if I sat with my brother in the audience for a priesthood meeting. And immediately the answer came back, of course, Brother Osgothorpe, you feel free to sit with your brother. There's no need for you to be on the stand, which I thought was quite magnanimous, given the fact that everything is quite so formal in that meeting. But in a sense, they were saying sibling relationships come first, family comes first. So he came to that meeting and we had a great time. Now, he invited me to a different kind of meeting. He invited me to a rock concert by Joe Bonamassa, one of the great living legendary guitarists in the world. It was held in the Eccles Center in Salt Lake, and I said, yeah, I'll come to the Joe Bonamassa concert. It's actually not exactly my kind of music. He knew that, but I wanted to be with my brother and do something that he liked to do. And so we did that. We sat down in that concert. I leaned over and I said, well, I have to tell you, this is the first rock concert I've ever attended in my life. I was not into it when I was younger, and I never did get into it. And so this was an interesting experience. He leaned over and he said, I should have told you to bring earplugs because it gets pretty loud. And after the concert began, I soon recognized that that was true. I should have brought earplugs. It was incredible. I enjoyed it actually a lot. The performer is extremely talented, and we had a great time. Now, you think about how people can't change. Well, my brother went to the doctor one day, and the doctor said, you got to lose weight. You weigh 313 pounds, and you have to lose weight. You've got type 2 diabetes, and you've got high blood pressure, and lots of things are going on in your body that are not good. You need to take some pounds off. So my brother stopped drinking Coke. He was drinking Coke all day, every day. He said, I never had a minute of the day that a cup of Coke was not in my hand. I carried it around everywhere in the house that I went. And so he stopped drinking Coke just as he had stopped his drug habit years and years before. He stopped cold turkey, never had another Coke for now almost a year. And in the process, he has now lost, at the airing of this episode, 90 pounds. I'm still astounded that anyone can lose 90 pounds, but he has lost 90 pounds. His blood sugar is now normal without any medication. He's gone off all of his blood pressure medication as well. His blood pressure is now normal. An amazing reversal of disease, an amazing change in a human being. So these physical things were happening for him. These physical improvements in his life were happening at the same time that I published Filled with His Love. Now, I'm not telling you this story to plug this book. You obviously already know about the book if you've listened to this podcast. I'm telling you this because of how this whole change has astounded me, I think, as well as him. When the book came out, I called him and I said, I've just had a book published. I want to know if you would like a copy. I'll give you a copy. And he said, well, I don't read. Now, by that, he means he can read, but he just doesn't enjoy reading, and so he hasn't read very much in many years. And I said, if you don't want one, that's fine. There's no problem. But if you would like one, I'll give it to you. So he said, no, I want one because you wrote it. I want one. So I gave him the book, and he called not too many days after, and he said, I'm reading the book, and I'm liking it, and it's helping me. And I said, it's helping you? He said, yes, it's helping me. I said, how is it helping you? He said, I don't know exactly, but this book is helping me. Well, when the audiobook was mounted on Amazon, he wanted a copy of the audiobook. So we got him an audiobook. And then he called to tell me that he was listening to the audiobook every night before he went to bed. I said, well, I think that would put me to sleep and I wouldn't be able to stay awake. he said, no, he said, it doesn't make me go to sleep. He says, it kind of gives me a lot of peace before I go to sleep. And so it kind of gives me something to get me ready for sleep. And I like it in the audio form as well. So this book somehow has helped him spiritually, just like his weight loss helped him physically. He has not gone to church in many years, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him to the church that is now on State Street and Social Hall Avenue. It's a new building, multi-use building, with offices on the top and chapels on the bottom. He wanted to see the building. He wanted to go to church there. He hadn't been inside a church building for decades. So we went together to church. We both enjoyed it a lot. And then, in the course of conversation, I said, it sounds like you are getting closer to God. And he says, well, he said, it's been your book. He said, I understand now in the book, he says, I've had some challenges with relationships in my life, with my family. And he said, what you say in the book is, if you're not close to God, then it's hard to be close to others. In other words, the closer you get to God, the closer you get to those on earth that you love. And I said, well, that's quite amazing, because that is the central message of the book. God brings us together, in a sense. God enriches our relationship with each other as family members and friends. And so he said, I knew that I needed to get closer to God, because I have not been close to God. I haven't been praying. I haven't been attending church, and I need to get closer to God. So this process is happening in him. I can see it. He's more buoyant. He's more upbeat. He's more positive about life in general. And so he's had this kind of spiritual awakening, in a sense, at the same time that he had his physical improvements in his body. And as I even say in the book, our body and our spirit are totally one. We cannot separate them. And when one improves, the other improves automatically. So he's seeing a lot of change right now. And I'm excited for him. I'm excited for our relationship. Our relationship has just continued to get better and better over the last several years. And that excites me, because for a number of years, we didn't have a lot of contact. We didn't have a bad relationship, but we didn't have a lot of contact with each other. I was extremely busy with BYU and Sunday school general president. And so I just didn't have a whole lot of time to chit-chat with siblings. But during these last several years, I've had more time, and so we've gotten to be very close. And that, for me, is a great blessing in my life. I told him the other day, I said, you're my hero. I've never known anyone who lost 90 pounds. And I said, you kind of inspire me in all kinds of ways. And that's how things are going right now. So, leopards can change their spots. My brother proves that. Old dogs can learn new tricks. My brother proves that. And the tree can grow in new directions. People can change. Otherwise, what is the gospel of Jesus Christ? Repentance is a process of change. And that's the whole purpose of the gospel of Jesus Christ, to help us come to him and change whatever needs to be changed in our lives. I have so much confidence, so much faith, such a strong witness that people can change. All of us can change whatever the Lord would have us do to become a more faithful servant to him. I hope you have a great week, and I hope if someone needs this particular episode, you'll share it with them and help their sibling relationships or their own ability to believe that they can change. Charity believeth all things. We believe that people can change. See you next time.